Hello and welcome to the third quarter video podcasts of the New Jersey Bank Marketing Committee of the New Jersey Bankers Association. I'm your host, Steve Lubetkin from ProfessionalPodcasts.com. This program was recorded October 2nd, 2008 in Clark, New Jersey, and is the second of two video podcasts from this third quarter series. In this program, Michae Cherenson, APR, Executive Vice President of Success Communications Group, and the incoming Chair of the Public Relations Society of America, discusses reputation, trust, and integrated marketing communications. Michael's program runs approximately 48 minutes. For information on New Jersey bankers, visit njbankers.com. For the Bank Marketing Committee, visit njbankmarketing.com. Now let's go to the lectern where Jim Kerr will introduce Michae Cherenson.
For the second part of our integrated marketing communications session, we have Michae Cherenson as our second speaker. He's Executive Vice President, Public Relations for the Success Communications Group. He's also Chair-elect for the Public Relations Society of America. In 2007, Michae was named Chair-elect of the PRSA, the world's largest organization for public relations professionals, with more than 32,000 members and 109 chapters across the United States. His expertise extends to all disciplines of public relations, including corporate marketing, internal and crisis communications, government relations, event management, and interactive public relations. A 17-year industry veteran and the author of 3 studies on the impact of reputation, Cherenson is accredited in the Public Relations APR by the Universal Accreditation Board and holds an advanced certification in political management from the Graduate School of Political Management at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. So let's give a warm welcome to Michae.
Thank you very much. And I must say, I planned this presentation, I don't know how many months ago, so it's kind of just interesting. And this morning I was reading the Star Ledger. I know there's someone from the Ledger here today. There you go. And I just started tearing out some of the ads. I forgot to bring it from banks. And I think every one of them involved trust, you could depend on, confidence. I don't think there's a more topical issue in your business today than these two things. So some of the things we'll be talking about today are, so what is reputation? It's a term we use a lot. Let's talk about what it is and how do you define it. What's its impact? What impact does reputation have on the bottom line? Who do people trust? Because reputation and trust, I think they're linked, and we'll make that linkage. And then how do you build this good reputation? How do you build trust? First of all, there's a lot of definitions. It's the ability to make stakeholder reputation, rational emotional appeal. At the end of the day, it's about expectation plus credibility. Expectation plus credibility. And I think, people expect a lot from banking institutions. And I think part of the problem we're seeing now is that expectation was not met. They expected their money to be safe. They expected all these things. And then credibility at the end of the day is this: do what you say you will do. And I think this is true of any business, but definitely those businesses that are dealing with money. Do what you say you will do. If anything, this is probably the most important thing. Do what you say you will do. It's essential. We talked a little bit about the brand and the difference between brand and reputation. And I think this is a great slide. Brand is personality. And you saw a lot about bringing your personality forward in the way you design your branches and the signage you use. But reputation is character. Brand is what the company wants you to think and feel when it hears your name. Reputation is what you really do think and feel when you hear a company's name. Brand is communication, reputation is behavior. And you're seeing a lot of these behavior issues right now. Brand is something you build, reputation is something you earn. And brand is a promise, reputation is keeping the promise. And I think these are the distinctions between these two. They work hand in hand. Obviously you have to make the promise, and your brand promise is important, but then you have to keep that promise. What are all, from your standpoint, what are the dimensions of a corporate reputation? And there are 6. The emotional appeal, and I think Jay talked about that, about and I always use the example of Apple also. With that iPod, there's an emotional attachment to that device. It's just cool, it's great. It's there's an emotional attachment to it, and you should have the same thing in your institutions. The products and services, obviously, you guys know that. The rates, how important are the rates and the products you offer to your customers? Financial performance. We're seeing that now more than ever. Social responsibility. We saw the value of those community walls. Jay spoke a lot about those community walls and the value of social responsibility. I'm a second-generation public relations person. I grew up around this business. My dad, I was just saying, started representing banks and real estate. I grew up going to bank grand openings. I was the first kid to put an account in 1,000 different banks. But that's what banks have a history of giving back to the community. That's such an important part about what you do. The workplace environment. Jay talked a lot about earlier about, just the way that the employees are such an important part of the cog in the wheel. So I think it's important workplace environment. And then the vision and leadership. And, someone once told me, and we've all been in this situation, driving down the parkway, it's a rainy day, you can't see in front of you, the wipers are going 1,000 miles, that trip is horrible. You shut the radio off, you tell everybody in the car, shut up, because I can't see where I'm going, everything tightens up. The day gets clearer, you shut the wipers off, everything feels better. Right? The music is better, the conversation's better. When you know where you're going, people relax. Vision and leadership are essential to building that reputation. People are more relaxed and more receptive to your messages when your bosses, your CEOs show vision and leadership. It's essential. So at the end of the day, reputation is, can I trust you? That's what reputation is all about. Can I trust you? I thought, here's a couple good quotes. We all want to be persuasive. We want our ads to be people to understand our ads. We want to persuade people to come bank with us. But to be persuasive, we need to be believable. To be believable, we need to be credible. We need to do what we say we're going to do. But we must be truthful. I think so that's great. And how could you do something about finances without Warren Buffett? And I think the entire banking community, the entire financial world is realizing the value of this quote. Trust is like the air we breathe. We only notice it when it's gone. So I think the whole banking world is realizing. So we talked about what a reputation is. It's about expectation plus credibility, do what you say you will do, all that kind of stuff. So now that we know what it is, what impact does it have on your bottom line? And I'm going to go through some data here. It'll increase your sales. By investing in your reputation, will increase sales, secure your better employees, earn investor confidence, grow your business, gain market leadership, and build stakeholder loyalty. Thought this was an interesting statistic. The Federal Reserve Bank said up to 47% of a company's net worth is tied up in intangibles like brand and reputation. Half of your net worth. I mean, you guys are bean counters. I mean, you work with bean counters all the day. You wonder if they truly realize this. And by the way, this one of the things that I want you to do is take this data back and share it with the other people in your organization. Use these facts, use these statistics to get them to invest more money in what you do. That's why one of the reasons I go around and do this. I want them to invest more in you and the programs that you want to do. So let them know this. There was a study out by the Economic Intelligence Unit. The number one concern for senior executives, reputation risk. They're concerned about this stuff. They're thinking about this stuff. Credit crunch might be a little higher now, but I thought this was kind of interesting. Our firm did a few studies. They talked about the studies. We asked 600 people if they agree or disagree with the following statement. Trust is the most important consideration I make, even more important than political viewpoint, and more important than price and quality when I consider who I do business with. Bottom line, 85% agreed, 66% strongly agreed. Trust is the most important consideration when I decide who I do business with. And I think the banking community knows this. Salaries. Which company would you rather work for if all else were equal and your job would be the same? Company A pays a salary that meets your needs and they have a great reputation. Company B will pay you more, but their overall reputation is weak. 78% will take the lower paying job. So when you go to the CEO and say, listen, we want to invest in this community concern, why? Because you invest in your reputation, you can actually pay your employees less. That's not certainly a powerful message, but think of overhead costs and think of the bottom line implications of investing in your reputation. Bottom line implication. Similar scenario. Which company would you rather purchase a product or service from if the quality of the product or service was equal? So you got the same product, same service. It's equal. Company A has an excellent reputation, charges you a little bit more. Company B has a poor reputation, charges less. 86% will pay more. They will pay more. So you can cut your overhead costs and charge more for your goods and services by investing in your reputation. I mean, come on. Is there a link between reputation and job performance? According to 98% of HR professionals, yes. 91% of employees say yes. So one, you can secure talent cheaper, and they'll be more productive. Powerful stuff. A company that fails to look after its reputation aspect, basically if you don't look after your reputation, you will suffer financially. It's hard to read, 67% agree a lot. 29% agree a little. Huge, that you will suffer financially. What will people do? They will take action against your company if you have a bad reputation. 81% will refuse to buy your products or services. 74% will criticize them to other people. 70% will refuse to invest in them. If you have a bad reputation, they will try to injure or harm you. So just think of what that'll happen. And there's a lot of brands out there that suffer this. And just not too long ago, the Wall Street Journal said, an economic slows, reputation takes added meaning. It's more important now than ever before. So, but who do they trust? Here's the problem. Reputation is more important now. Trust is more important, but they don't trust people. And by the way, this was done in 2008. Throw it out the window. What's more important because it's changed. Since what happened the last 2 weeks, it's changed dramatically. Because if you see, business was on an upswing. I would contend it's probably on a downswing. What's more important now is you see trust change. It's fluid. It's always evolving. It's always evolving. But I mean, just how sad it is. Do you guys really think that 58% of people trust business today? I bet you it's 48%. I bet you, I don't even know where it is. But it's tanked considerably. So it's more important you recognize that it's fluid. One interesting point. NGOs, non-government organizations, charities, are seen as very credible. And we talked about the value of those community walls and giving back to the community and corporate social responsibility. A huge asset for let them be your spokespeople. Let them be a conduit which use information. So that I thought that was an interesting thing. Trust in spokespeople. By the way, you look at the on the left. It's hard. I don't know if you can read it, but a person like yourself. You know, people talk about the power of social media. Where do people like, you know, Steve, for example, who is currently working the camera, I've known Steve forever. He knows technology. He is my maven when it comes to technology. I trust him more than I trust any other magazine. I trust people, as he gives me this sign. But we all have these in our lives. People you trust for food, people you trust for wine, people you trust for travel. No different than the financial world. You have to realize that not all people are equal. Some people carry more weight. And so when you're trying to connect with people, helping to identify who are these connectors, who are the powerful people, who are people like yourself. And again, we're also facing some other issues with obviously so many different sources of information. And the Star Ledger will be happy to see this. Still, to this day, even though the most, articles and newspapers, some of the most credible forms of information. So as you're looking, they don't trust you, so you need to find credible sources to deliver your message. And that's why, obviously, articles and newspapers still remain some of the most credible. Articles in business magazines and television news cameras. So that's important consideration you make as well. There's fragmentation, but still, the traditional media still continues to play an important role. And I'll go through this quickly. Just talks more about fragmentation. So here we are. We understand what reputation is. We understand that it's important. We understand that people don't trust. So how do you connect? And now we're also faced with this new dynamic, this changing media environment, where there's so many sources of media. And I use the bulldog and the bee. And the bulldog, we all, grew up waiting on the front driveway for the person to throw the newspaper at you. And then we all came home at 6:30 and sat in front of the TV and waited for Walter Cronkite to give us the news. And then we all went to Channel 5 at 10 o'clock and waited for the guy to give us the news again. And we were like this big dumb bulldog waiting for somebody to give us news, waiting for somebody to feed us. But now it's changed. Your customers, all of us, go out and find the news. We go out and find it. And not only do we find it like the bee, but we change it. Now you go to NJ.com and you can comment on NJ.com. So the next person who reads that story is going to get your perspective. It's going to change it. And you have to understand this environment because that is shaping the perceptions of your company. That the individuals, now they're no longer, it used to be that, the Star Ledger was the sole producer of the news and we were simply consumers of the news. And now, yes, they continue to produce it, but we also add to the production, am I right? People can share their videos. So other people are shaping how your organization is perceived. and the reputation of your organization. You have to understand this. It's no longer you controlling the message. And somebody told me, somebody gave a great analogy the other day. How many of you have sang in the car? You know, we've all sang in the car. But because of this new technology, we're all singing with the windows open. Everybody can hear everything we say. They can listen. It's a more transparent world. And so people can comment. People can post their own videos. I mean, YouTube. I mean, can you hand me my bag real quick? I want to show you a little something. And by the way, this is a point I've been making to a lot of people. You got to be careful. While this is also an opportunity, let me just show you a little thing, a little video camera you can buy for $140. You can take this with you, pop it in, and I can be on YouTube in 2 minutes. We're all reporters. Every one of your customers is a reporter. I'm a reporter. I can be on a blog. I can engage one of your, we talked about the value of customer service. I can engage one of your tellers in a conversation. Doesn't go well? I'm going to have it on YouTube in 5 minutes. Think about it, I can actually look to pick a fight. I can go into your restrooms and it's disgusting and it's dirty. I could videotape and put on YouTube and I've defined your brand. So you have to realize that other people are shaping your reputation as much as you are. So it's important to know. And this is another problem we're facing, infodemics. And we've all seen it. Basically, it's the interaction of mainstream media, specialist media, internet sites, and informal media, like text messaging, all this kind of stuff. Basically, the combination of fact, rumor, interpretation, and propaganda. It's the old telephone game, but now it's multiplied by 1 billion times. That, there's a rumor that something's happening at your bank. Within minutes, it's everywhere. Your employees email it to a friend texts their coworker, a coworker happens to have a blog, it's posted on the blog, somebody Twitters about it, next thing you know, you're out of control. So realize that other people are shaping the reputation of your organization. We talked about this earlier, about a person like you and all the credibility. I'll move on to this quickly. Real quick, too, again, about the value of other people shaping your thing. Who are people like you? They share common interests, hold similar political beliefs, is from your local community. This is both a challenge and an opportunity. Certainly other people defining your brand, but how could you use these people to build credibility for your organization? How could you use people like you? And that's a challenge. So this third-party endorsement, finding people like yourself. So what do we learn about trust? Trust is not distributed evenly. We saw that all media is not the same. All people are not the same. Not all spokespeople are equal. The traditional is still valued, but peer-to-peer is highly influential. Peer-to-peer is highly influential. And a person like you is the most trusted source of information. A person like you. So we have a simple equation. You guys like math. Trust is shifting always. Again, a study that was done just a couple months ago is already outdated. You got post 9/11, Katrina, war, all this fear and anxiety, economic instability, you got information overload. We are just bombarded. We talked about cleaning up your banking environment. We're just bombarded with information. And much of the information we get on the news is tabloidized. Let's face it, we knew more about Britney Spears' drug habit than derivatives. We know more about Britney Spears' sister being pregnant than we know what's going on in Darfur. It's tabloid. It bleeds, it leads. That's what the media is all about. Pressure for short-term results. We see what happens there. Savvy consumers. They know more about your rates than you know about your competitors' rates. How many of us used to go shop for a car, and where's Jay? His father was in the car business. Used to depend on the car dealer to give you all the information because you didn't know what it was. Today, you know everything. I mean, you know everything. Your employees are more empowered now than ever before. First of all, they know their worth. They can go on Monster.com and see what jobs are out there every minute of every day so they know what they're worth. Plus, they have access. They can be blogging about your company. They can be mybankstinks.com, and they can every memo you put out could be publicized. They're more empowered now than ever before. You got international instability, and I apologize, I have a cold, and infodemics. And the last is this minority influence. And I don't mean racial minorities, I mean small groups having a huge impact. How many organizations have wanted to build a retail center and 6 people being able to stop it? 6 people now have a large voice. We represent a major retailer and they face this all the time. that you can, there's outrage industry now. There's people that mad as hell, and they'll get on the news. Let's face it, harmony does not make headlines, conflict makes headlines. So, the bottom line, reputation is more valuable and fragile than ever before. So we know all this now, so what do we do? We know what reputation is, we know it impacts the bottom line, but we know now it's harder to achieve, but more important than ever before. So how do we build it? A lot of stuff, I'll go through it quickly. Bottom line, quality, you've got to have good quality of products, good customer service, overall reputation, financial performance, really the things that we talked about earlier. I apologize, this slide is not good to do. But some of the most important things, visible. And Jay talked a lot about this. You've just got to be visible. Your message has to be out there. You've got to be transparent, open, and honest. I think you're singing already, and they all hear it. So be transparent. Somebody in PR once said, tell the truth. You don't have to remember anything. So I think transparency is essential. Be distinctive. You got to separate yourself from your competitors. I think you also have to be consistent, and consistent in everything you do, and authentic. You have to be real. This is probably the most important thing. You have to be real. You have to know your DNA, and we'll go into this a little bit. But I think these are some of the key components. Another way to build it is credibility among your employees, by the way. I thought this was interesting, and employees are essential, and Jay touched upon this. By the way, you notice what the most share news, two-way communications, meetings, employee decision-making, surveys. Two-way communication. Not just talking, listening. It should be a dialogue, not a monologue. It's two-way communications essential. And listening employee builds trust. And there's study after study just says it. So it's essential. Another thing, the most admired companies, you will find their PR person is located closer to the CEO. They report directly to the CEO. The more admired companies you will find in every one of the Fortune and Forbes and all these lists, the PR person does not report to somebody else. They report directly to the C-suite. It's essential that as you as the communicators report directly to the CEO. Another study, how do you earn trust? Handle crisis better. Communicate openly and frequently with stakeholders. Stick to a code of business ethics. Personally and visibly show care and concern. And assume personal responsibility and accountability. And I'm going to go into, I'm sorry later, but think about this crisis. Has anyone really taken responsibility or accountability for this whole financial crisis? Have you heard anybody says, I'm taking responsibility? So I think that's adding to the whole instability, and that's why I think one of the reasons we don't have trust. You guys should understand this better than anybody. Building trust, it's like a bank. You make deposits. You do good. Every time you make a donate, you communicate openly and honestly to your customers. You make a deposit. Every good deed, every time you do what you say you will do, every time you manage expectation, every grant you give to a local Little League, every customer that you gave that cup of coffee to or you gave that phone call to, you make a deposit. Because you're going to have to make a withdrawal. One day you're going to have a teller that's going to lie or stonewall. One day somebody's going to do something badly. You're going to, things are going to happen. And the analogy I use here is the Catholic Church. How many organizations could have withstood such a crisis? But they had made so many deposits in their account over the years that they could withstand that crisis. And I think that, and every organization will have a crisis. You will have a rogue employee that will do something. It'll happen to all of us. So that's why you have to treat this like a bank. You have to tell your management, we need to make deposits in our goodwill reservoir. We need to continually make deposits because one day we will have to make a withdrawal. And I think this is building that goodwill reservoir, it's an investment. Trust and reputation are an asset and an investment. So here's some trust-busting behaviors. Arrogance and chest beating. Cell phones that ring in the middle of presentations. Broken promises and commitments. Over-promising, under-deliver. That is key. We talked a lot about expectation. Deception and disinformation. Denial, stall, delay. We do a lot of crisis training, and we get so bogged down on what the message is. If you notice, some of the biggest problems in crisis are when you don't say anything at all. They just delayed, they stonewalled, and you've even seen it with when a customer has a problem, when they don't feel get an answer right away. That's how those are deposits. Withdrawals on your goodwill account. Ducking responsibility, minimizing risk, core values, and not trusting others. So how do you build trust? Promises made, promises kept, exceed expectation, honest, accepting and assign accountability, Know your DNA, know who you are, know what you're about. You know, my dad always used the analogy, you know, and you may go for a suit and your tailor says, listen, purple suits are all the rage. They are, you got to get yourself a purple suit. But if you don't feel comfortable in a purple suit, it's just not going to work. You're not going to feel comfortable. So you have to know, you know, there's not a one, and I'm sure Jay will tell you this when you design your bank branch, it has to fit who you are, know your DNA. This is key. Respect, honor, reward those who put their trust in you. Respect, honor, and reward those who put their trust in you. And who are those? Your customers. You know, there's a line in Arthur Page was a great PR person, worked for AT&T. And he had a great line. The role of public relations is to remind business that it operates with the permission of the public. Your customers give you permission to operate. Without their permission, you do not exist. Ask some of your competitors that don't exist anymore just in the past couple weeks. To remind business, your job is to remind your business that your business, your bank operates with the permission of the public, and that's really what it's all about. And treat trust as a long-term investment paying ongoing dividends. And if that doesn't resonate with the senior management of your organization, I don't know what will. Treat trust as a long-term investment paying ongoing dividends. And then there's, I'm sorry. You know, somebody was telling me they went to a class the other day, business writing, they were told never say I'm sorry. I know it's not health, I know it's not banking, but it's healthcare. Since 2002, the University of Michigan Health System is encouraging doctors to apologize. Since that time, they have cut attorneys' fees by $2 million, and malpractice lawsuits and the notices of intent to sue have dropped in half, just by saying they're sorry. I mean, I'm sorry. And I was talking to somebody. By the way, folks, most of this stuff we learned on the playground when we were, 5. Okay, and all of this stuff I'm going to go through. It's super, super simple. Super simple. But so is losing weight and quitting smoking. But it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. The Veterans Administration did a whole study. A large percentage of patients' dissatisfaction was generated by physicians' attitude and denial rather than negligence and stuff. Close to half the malpractice cases could have been avoided through disclosure or apology. What a majority of patients really wanted was simple and honest explanation of what happened and, if appropriate, an apology. I mean, there's a definite correlation between what you do and the customers that, there was a problem. This message needs to get out internally. I'm sorry is a powerful word, and ask for forgiveness. Andy Pettit, Roger Clemens, both faced with similar things. One denied, one accepted responsibility. When was the last time we heard from Roger Clemens? And we won't be in the Hall of Fame. Andy Pettit, they closed Yankee Stadium, the most famous stadium in the world. Who do they want on the mound but this guy? They both did the same thing. They both took growth hormones and steroids, whatever. One guy apologizes, the other guy stonewalls. Where are they now? What a great case study. What a great case study. Building local reputations, creating job and environmental responsibility. So I think that's an important consideration. In many of your communities, you do create jobs. I think that's a great way to show that to build that reputation and trust. Practice sound environmental policies. Sustainability is becoming a big, big thing. If they see that your bank is wasting energy and wasting fuel, that could hurt you. Switch to compact fluorescent light bulbs. Do little things. And by the way, that's one of the things about public relations, doing good things and getting credit for it. So when you do good things, get credit for it. So environmental sustainability, respect local customs and traditions. I think that's essential. Don't push out the local competitors. And in many ways, that's what's kept you in business, because people, when these big mega banks would come in, they wanted to make sure that the local banks were there. Take leadership role on issues relevant to your community, make your products conducive to the area, and make charitable contributions. So here's some strategies that I'd recommend. First of all, know your DNA. Leadership is key, and articulate that vision. I think the CEO has to be positioned as a chief trust officer. Think long term. Know your reputation and audit relationships. Really understand who you have relationships with. Invest strategically in your trust bank. And I think that's a great conversation to have internally when you can bring that back to your organization. Live your values and ethics. Prove it. Trust is earned through deeds and competence. Put a human face back into the business. People listen with their stomachs. That's a great line by Tom Friedman. You know, when you watch a great speech, you're listening here, but it hits you. You just feel it, you know. And, you know, it's like music or anything else. People listen with their stomachs. So put a human face back into it. Accountability, sustainability, and corporate responsibility. Be a model citizen. Communicate plainly, openly, and straightforwardly. You know, I heard Jim Carville, the political strategist, speak. And he had a great line. He said, we multiply by subtraction. The simpler the message, the more people you reach. We multiply by subtraction. You will reach more people with a simpler message. And again, communication is a dialogue, not a monologue, and not all communication is equal, and not all audiences are equal. So I know I throw a lot out at you, but let me open up for questions. You know, anybody have any questions about any of the data? About, you know?
Yes. When you started, you talked about all the bank ads that you saw, and everyone is out there saying, been around for a long time, trust us, we're fine. What value do you see in that, or does it kind of cancel itself out? Or if you're trying to put forth a message like that, how do you make it believable and meaningful where it's worth the investment?
Well, I mean, I'll kind of buzz back to that one slide about brand and reputation. I think that, you know, those ads, while important, really it was communication, but it's really reputation is the behavior. And then I think you have to show the concern. You have to show things. I mean, I think it takes time. There's no silver bullet. I mean, you can run an ad tomorrow, and that's a powerful tool, but the reputation's earned over time. And I think it's about doing good things and getting credit for it. I think that's the power of public relations. That's the power of publicity. That's the power of connecting with nonprofit groups. That's the power of being open, honest. If the Star Ledger reporter knows you to be an open, honest, and transparent, they will quote you more, and they will come to you. And it's a lot of little things. And that's, you know, some of the difficulties. It's easier to run one ad than to do all these little things to make. And so. I think, you know, bottom line, the ads are important, but you have to live those values too, and then you have to, each time you do it, how do I get credit for it? So, you know, we talked about, again, make sure your employees are your best ambassadors. Communicate with your employees consistently, because if they understand better, they'll be better. And we talked about that power of that interaction at the teller and at the platform. You know, it's great that it looks great, but if they don't feel great about their company, I don't care how great the environment is. If they don't like working for that company, sorry, Jay, throw out all the other stuff. If they don't look happy, you know, it's funny, we did research for the Borgata, which, you know, obviously a large casino. We did an employee study. And it's amazing how, you know, these employees, all they want, the number one thing they wanted, obviously they wanted good pay and good benefits, they wanted respect. They wanted respect. And that's the number one thing they want. And one of the most important things, obviously, give them the tools for success, you know, and also communicate with them. And I think those go a long way, because that's where they interact. And I think, you know, internal communications is essential. I think it's undervalued. I think we're all so quick. Let's go tell the world this thing. Well, have you told your employees first? I think that's a key thing. And I think it's also an opportunity for a lot of you to take over that space. If you can make the leap that this impacts our reputation brand, that employee, we need to be involved in that. I think that's an opportunity for you as well, everybody in this room, to own that space as well, because they are part of your branding and reputation campaign. So,
Michael?
Yes.
Just to bolster your point, just flew out of Manchester Airport. In today's, as far as trust is concerned, in today's environment, you know, all the airlines are trying to show that they're the best, that they're trying to do a good job, that they want to earn trust. But Southwest Airlines took their queuing line, put a little slip cover over it in yellow, and said no charge zone. Your bags fly free. So I just paid $80 to send my golf clubs and my other bag to Michigan, and now I walk by, and guess who the only one that was making good on that promise was Southwest Airlines. So I was very impressed with them, as opposed to all the other providers there that are charging for their bags. So to Michael's point, making it come true on all those different outlets, what you say, making it believable, that's the payoff. If it manifests itself everywhere, on the website, in the branch, in your print, every way you speak to the customer is very important.
You know, one of the interviews we did was for one of their competitors, and they had this. It was I forget. I think she was a dealer. She said that we had this circle of service plan. She said the bosses were going to be nice to the employees were going to be nice to the customers, and the customers were going to spend more money, and there was going to be this thing. But she said the boss was never nice to us. So, you know, and he never said hello to us. And then, you know, and I think that's another part of your role. is to counsel that CEO that saying hello to your employees is essential. I think you have to be leaders here. I think this is our time to be leaders. You know, you've got a lot of people that know how to count the money. You've got a lot of people that know how to, you're the people that know how to count that other asset, those intangible assets. And I think if you frame the discussion in that way, you know, that if you are the keepers of the intangibles, and I think, you know, Mr. CEO, Mr. Chairman of the board, our intangibles now are more important than our tangibles, or just as important as our tangibles. So it's, and you have to be involved in across the board. You know, let's face it, it was all these things. It was products and services, financial performance, social responsibility, all those things. You've got to be emotionally appealing. You've got to have good products and services. You've got to be financially sound. You've got to be socially responsible. You've got to be a great workplace. And you've got to show vision and leadership. This is how you prove to the world that you are safe, you can be trustworthy, you have a great reputation. Those 6 things. At the end of the day, those 6 things. So, and by the way, those aren't spaces that we're, you know, traditionally comfortable in. You know, but I think we have to make the case that this is where we belong. Any other questions?
With regards to a lot of the ads that we're all seeing in the papers, a lot of the ads that we're doing ourselves, with the main goal of building trust and reputation, do you think it subtracts or adds to the whole idea with using product placement? You know, here, trust us, we're a great community bank, and oh, by the way, we have a great rate. Well,
I think, you know, advertising obviously is it's got to be, advertising is consistency. It's the hammer and the nail. I can buy that consistency with that ad. I could be in the Star Ledger every week, but the nail that's going to really drive it home is when you do a good deed. When you give that big grant to the community, when you do those seminars for people that maybe have lost their jobs, when you develop a program to help small businesses that can't get, when you do those things, it's the hammer and the nail. Buy that, you know, you can buy that consistency in the Star Ledger. We want you to buy that consistency, right, on a regular basis. But you also have to do those things. And I think it's the hammer and the nail. I think it's the combination of the two. Because, again, PR is about doing good things, but then you have to get credit for it. But, you know, the worst thing that could happen is, you know, trust us, we have great rates. And they get there, man, the teller wasn't nice to me. The place looks like crap. And the rates weren't that good. So you've just ruined any goodwill. You have to be able to manage the expectation. I think that's one of the biggest, challenges you're going to have is that they're going to, you know, the leadership's going to want you to tell everybody we have the best rates. Do it, and you don't. And then that's how you ruin your reputation, when you don't meet the expectation. So, and that's a challenge, you know. Did I give a good plug for the Star Ledger?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, 3 questions.
Do you think, I see all these ads come across my desk the week before, of course now it's just a couple days before, and a lot of them are using rates and rate pluses. Do you think there's any advantage to someone using their image and their corporate image to build that trust in the ad? So at this point in time for banks, and no one's doing this, just to delete rates, don't worry about rates, because that's not very important right now. The most important thing is trust. Maybe your founder's picture established in 1872, communities, et cetera, instead of the rate item.
Well, I think, yeah, if you can use your advertising to show vision and leadership, workplace environment, social responsibility, emotional appeal, I think everybody's too stuck on products and services. And so maybe I think that's a great point. What else could you do in your ads? Maybe it's a campaign focused on all those elements. You know, maybe that's something where, and on all these elements carry through not only in your ads, but in the way you design, you know, the signage and everything else. But I think that's a great point. Emotional appeal, talk about maybe, the kid in the community that had cancer that you helped. Build some of that, you know, emotional appeal. You know, obviously financial, you know, been around for 100 years. And maybe mentally, does our copy touch upon every one of these points? You know, does our copy touch upon every one of these points? So, and I'll tell you there's a good book out there, by the way, it's called Drivers. And it's a very interesting book about, it says that all human beings are born with 4 basic drives. The drive to bond, learn, acquire, and defend. And think about little kids. You know, they want to bond, they want to be held, they want to be loved, they want to learn, they're putting plugs in everything. You know, little babies are testing. They want to acquire mine, and they want to defend. No, that's mine, you know. And I think about your customers. They want to bond. They want to have a relationship with the bank. They want to feel good. They want to have that kind of, they want to learn. They want you to help them navigate the storm. They want to acquire. Help me grow. Help me grow my assets. Help me do this. And they want to defend. I don't want to lose it. I better not lose 1 cent. And that I always kind of find those 4 buckets helpful too. So when I write a press release or a copy, whatever, I kind of think that I touch upon all those 4 buckets because that's what people want. Some people want, we all know people who are more focused on acquiring and more people that are more defensive, but I think overall it's kind of a good kind of mental bucket list. But I think you're right. I mean, I think we're too focused on that one products and services. Maybe you've got to touch upon some of those other things. It's a good point. Good. Well, thank you very much. Again, I'll be here if you have some cards if you need them.
We hope you enjoyed this presentation by the New Jersey Bankers Association's Bank Marketing Committee, produced by ProfessionalPodcasts.com. For information, call us at 856-751-5491 or send email to steve@professionalpodcasts.com. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you out there on the net. Take good care.